Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining this drop-in event. Today we'll be discussing Albert Place in particular in relation to the Walk Cycle Live Stirling project. We'll just start the presentation with a brief introduction to the Walk Cycle Live Stirling project for those that are new to the project, and also as a refresher for those that have been involved throughout the consultation process to date. So we'll just touch on what the project is in particular and why we are proceeding with the Walk Cycle Live Stirling project, and then we'll touch on the project organisation. We'll then follow on with the Albert Place presentation, followed by the Q&A, which I can read aloud. However, you've got that function on your Microsoft Teams that you can start asking questions throughout, and we've got a team working behind the scenes to answer those questions. So what is Walk Cycle Live Stirling? Walk Cycle Live, it's an active travel project that Stirling, in partnership with Sustrans, we seek to deliver exemplar walking and cycling infrastructure, as well as creating more attractive and dynamic public spaces. It's a project targeted to transform the city of Stirling into a more sustainable, vibrant and accessible place for everyone to live, work and visit. So Walk Cycle Live Stirling will be transforming two key transport corridors, and it will make it easier for people to walk and cycle into the city centre. And along these two routes, there'll be spaces created for people to rest, play, connect with nature and learn more about the city's rich history. This is just a map of the two routes to give you a contextual awareness of the routes we're talking about. So we've labelled them the Stirling Station to University route and the City Centre to Forth Valley College route. So the Forth Valley College to the City Centre starts at the college and travels along Drip Road, down Ratblock Road and continues along Dumbarton Road and then connects to Albert Place, passes Smith Art Gallery, the Albert Halls, and then terminates at Upper Craigs in the town centre. And the other route, the station to University, starts at the train station and along Cowan Street past the Cowan Centre, across Old Stirling Bridge and along Causeway Head and connects along Airthrough Road where it terminates at the University of Stirling roundabout. So why do we need Walk Cycle Live Stirling? Well, Stirling Council's local development plan and the City Region deal has set out ambitious plans for Stirling to grow in a way that gives us the best possible place for people to live and enjoy, but whilst enabling walking, cycling and placemaking within the city. We have committed to increasing the number of shorter journeys made on foot and by bike, which will help tackle traffic congestion, air quality and health issues, as well as improving the public realm and urban experience. So by providing this better cycling and network infrastructure, we will bring additional economic, health and environmental benefits to our city. So such benefits that we can see for the economy, we can see a 30% increase in retail sales thanks to walking and cycling projects. That's shown in a report by Living Streets. There's up to about 1.26 billion is the value of walking tourism brings to the Scottish economy, and you know that yourself. When you walk in a place that's pleasant to be in, you are more likely to spend time there and pop in for a coffee or a wee cake somewhere or meet your friends. We also see health benefits, quite significant. 20% reduction in absenteeism can be seen by promoting healthier travel options. So that's a report by Sustrans. And also, sadly, only 39% of people in Scotland achieve the recommended 30 minutes of physical activity on 5 or more days per week. But that can easily be achieved by just making one of these short trips within the city by foot or by bike. And you can easily add that into your daily exercise. And finally, we're obviously all aware of the climate emergency we're in, so active travel has significant environmental benefits by improving air quality, by investing in walking and cycling, and also the reduction in carbon emissions from transport, just with a 10% cycle mode share. So I'll just touch on who we are in the team. I'm Kayleigh, I'm the project manager for Walk Cycle Live Stirling. We've also got Kevin Argy, who's our transport development team leader, and Michaela Jackson is our community engagement officer. And in Sustrans team supporting us, we have Mary Davis and Davina Bright as project coordinators, and Letty as well as our infrastructure officer who's helping deliver the project. Where we are at the moment, last year in February 2020 we had our concept design consultation So we did various steering group workshops, design workshops, workshops with the businesses and accessibility panel, as well as with the general public. We have now since collated and analysed all that data we received, and we've updated our designs, which we are now presenting throughout this phase of consultation through February and March. We hope to have these designs finalised, then we can progress on to the detailed construction drawings to allow us to progress construction in summer, so the tail end of the summer, August, September. And with a 2-year construction time frame, we'd aim to have both routes complete by spring 2023. Just a note here of how the project is funded. It's a Stirling and Clackmannanshire City Region Deal project, and it's also match funded by Sustrans Scotland. Okay, so we're just going to move on to Albert Place presentation here. So we'll talk about the previous concept designs and the new proposals, and have some questions to stimulate the conversation. Just for awareness, when we speak about Albert Place, it's this section here that sort of commences just past the King's Knot and the Stirling Smith Art Gallery, and continues down to the Port Street junction just past the Wolf Craig. So we're aware that it's Albert Place that then continues on to Dumbarton Road East, where a lot of the businesses are in the city centre. Our concept design consultations for Albert Place and Dumbarton Road East was held back in February last year. Our concept design plans included a protected bidirectional two-way cycleway, which ran along the northbound carriageway from Upper Craigs to the west end of Albert Place, that junction we just spoke about. For us to achieve this, however, we would have needed to change the curb line, which would have had an impact on the trees, possibly needing to remove or relocate those trees. All parking on the north side would have had to be removed to allow the space for this cycleway, and all the parking on Dumbarton Road East would need to be removed. So we've got those accessible bays and loading bays outside the businesses. We also need to reduce the carriageway down to 5.5 metres, and in certain sections, specifically around the West End, we'd have needed to reduce the cycleway and the footway to below our minimum standards. We look specifically at the junction detail proposal. So currently this is a mini roundabout, and we'd have been looking to change it into a junction to try and mitigate any through traffic and force traffic around, and just providing it more of a gateway into the city for walking and cycling. What you told us about the concept designs, we needed to ensure that we had safer crossings, access to Kings Park. We needed raised crossings at the junctions, tried to reduce the radius at the junctions to help reduce traffic speeds. There was also a note that cyclists needed to access the southbound, at the junction there. So following consultation, we understood the desire to retain the trees and most of the parking, specifically the blue badge, disabled parking and the loading bays on Dumbarton Road East. So we have since reviewed these options available in this location to provide safe cycle infrastructure, and we are now proposing a cycle street for this situation. So it'd be looking at Catholic tramming measures along Albert Place and Dumbarton Road. We have introduced a safer crossing to connect to the southbound. We have suggested some raised table crossings for pedestrian desire lines, and we have redesigned the Dumbarton Road junction. We'll just look at these areas in a bit more detail. We're going to focus on the junction that we've touched on in concept design. We'll look at area just at Clarendon Place, and also we've got a visualisation outside the Albert Halls. Just to go into a bit more detail though as to what a cycle street is, it is designed so that active travel modes such as walking, cycling and wheeling can become the dominating form of traffic, and our designs would aim to make it immediately apparent to the drivers on the street that they are the guests on the street and they must give priority to cyclists. So specifically where space constraints restrict the ability to install protected lanes, such as this location, we can introduce traffic calming measures for vehicles. It would encourage cyclists to travel in the primary position along the centre of the carriageway lane, and it would provide pedestrians and disabled users plenty of space on the footway. So we would still be narrowing the carriageway down and increasing the footway in these locations. So for us to achieve a safe cycle street, we need to look at reducing the speed limit to 20 miles per hour. Traffic volumes would need to be reduced to below 2,000 vehicles a day. We can introduce traffic calming features such as raised tables, which we propose, possibly look at cycle-friendly speed bumps. We want to ensure that cyclists have priority at junctions, and we could also reinforce the cycle priority with some signage as well. We'll just go into the detail of these junctions here just to show what we've now done. So we have proposed this to be a raised table. The way the junction's aligned as well, it just sort of discourages any through traffic from the west. Put in a raised table, which was stated needed through the consultation process, and the carriageway surface we're looking to improve as well as a nice granite chip. The raised table will be natural stone material as well, and we'd like to introduce some additional greenery. The cycleway connection would be a buff colour as well, so throughout the route, the walk cycle live route, we want this contrasting colour to the footway. This is just a snapshot of the section just at Clarendon Place. This is just an idea of how the junctions could work. We want to just re-emphasise that there will be level crossings, so essentially raised tables where the vehicles would need to ramp up and cross. Rather than what the image suggests here, we would like this section to be a natural stone material in keeping with the area, but it's just to give an idea of how the vehicles would have to ramp up and give that level crossing for pedestrians. In our sort of proposals here, we're also looking at putting in cycle-friendly rumble strips. So this would be allowing cyclists to maintain in the primary position to bypass these rumble strips, which would be a setted material of sorts, just to create a different texture for tyres as they pass. We would also like to create a sort of rumble centre line, so rather than the lined markings you see on the visual there, it would be about ½ a metre wide strip of cobbles or something similar. It'd be a flat surface of sort, but just to create a different texture to vehicle tyres. Again, just further narrowing the carriageway visually. And finally, we'll just quickly look through the visualisation that we've got just outside of Albert Place here. So you can see how we've widened the footpath, still maintaining the parking. You see just north past that zebra crossing. The natural stone material that I'm talking about, you can see on the footway as well as on the carriageway at this section, which would be a raised table, just to provide a level crossing there. It adds as a traffic calming feature as well. And we would like to introduce greenery where possible. So we have proposed these designs to our steering groups through workshops, and it became apparent that for the proposals to be successful, we needed to achieve the reduced traffic flows along Albert Place and Dumbarton Road East quite significantly, probably about cutting the traffic volumes by about 2/3. So to achieve that, we can consider interventions such as bus gates, introducing local access only, or restricting vehicle movements from the side streets. So bus gates, that's one of the options that we would like to consider, and they're used to prevent access to general traffic beyond a certain point, and it allows only buses, taxis and cyclist movements through. We're currently exploring this possibility of a bus gate on Albert Place and Dumbarton Road East. It would reduce traffic volumes quite significantly, and it would discourage the use of the road as a through route to the town centre and from the town centre. So it is important that we do maintain the buses through this route. It will allow people access to sustainable travel and tourism coaches, which can access the key visitor attractions along Albert Place. So the vehicles would still be able to access the roads, but only up to the gate from either direction, allowing vehicles access to the residential properties and to the businesses and the visitor attractions. So on the screen here are 4 possible locations for bus gates. Just to try and talk you through it, the blue circles, they're representing the location of a bus gate for the westbound traffic. And the pink circle is the location of a bus gate for the eastbound traffic. The dashed lines would be the route which is restricted to buses, restricted to only buses, taxis and cycles from the point of the gate. But we should re-emphasise that obviously there are the side streets that would allow access to Albert Place for those that require to the properties and businesses. So although the bus gate prevents through traffic, there are those side streets which would still allow access to the points along Albert Place. So the idea is the bus gate would enforce the restriction of through traffic, and in doing so would provide a safer street for cyclists and a more pleasant environment for local residents, the businesses as well, and also for those that are walking in the area. So our suggestion would be a bus gate that would be implemented through the use of simple traffic signs and road markings, such as the previous view there that we saw. And out of these options, we would suggest probably option 3 would be the most successful in this location without too much impact for the local residents. So for option 3, the vehicles travelling from the town to the west would be diverted back to the town centre via Allen Park, creating an inconvenient route for westbound traffic. So although eastbound traffic, it's probably less of an inconvenience by going through. So for eastbound traffic, it would be diverted back down via Allen Park. So the other options to successfully ensure the route is inconvenient for through traffic, we would need to explore restricting movements to some of the side streets that may be used as shortcuts to avoid the bus gate. So Glebe Avenue, Clarendon Place, for example, might need to look at doing left or right turn only restrictions. Again, just to make it inconvenient for any of those looking to just use it as a shortcut. However, these options are all open for discussion. We're bringing them to yourselves, to our steering groups, to the local residents, just to get an idea as to what you think would work in this location to reduce traffic and to make Albert Place a successful cycle street, encouraging walking and cycling, improving the businesses in the area, and improving the key visitor attractions and the feel for the local residents. So I'll just finish up with the presentation there, and I appreciate there'll be those that have been asking questions to the team throughout. So we're just going to review those and read some out. Got no questions submitted at the moment. However, we can leave it another 10 minutes for questions that are coming through and our team can answer, and we'll restart the presentation for those that have just dropped in throughout. We'll restart it at past. So we also have our website live as well that has the proposals for Albert Place and Dumbarton Road East in a lot more detail. They're available for downloading as well, so you can print them off. And there's also the facility online to add your comments to the questions that we've got, and you can give us your feedback through that platform. The presentation you've heard today as well, the slides will be uploaded onto the website and can be shared and downloaded. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is our second revision of the presentation in this drop-in session. Today we'll be focusing on Albert Place within the Walk, Cycle, Live Stirling project. So we'll just talk about the project overview, what the Walk, Cycle, Live Stirling project is. We'll then move on to the Albert Place concept design and the proposals as we're bringing to you as part of the developed design. And we'll then bring to you some suggestions as to how we can reduce traffic within the area. So there is a questions facility as well where you can submit questions whilst I'm presenting to the team, and they'll be answering. And at the end of the presentation, I'll finish with 10 minutes and I'll read out the questions and answers that have been submitted. We have our website live as well, which has all the proposals for Albert Place, which you can view in detail. You can download and print off, you can share, and you can also give us feedback online through the facilities there and submit them. Okay, I'll just move on now to Walk, Cycle, Live Stirling. So we'll just touch on what the project is and why we're doing the project, and then just touch on the project team and the programme. So what is Walk, Cycle, Live Stirling? Well, it's an active travel project that Stirling Council, in partnership with Sustrans, we're seeking to deliver exemplar walking and cycling infrastructure, as well as creating more attractive and dynamic public spaces. And it is a project that's targeted to transform the city into a more sustainable, vibrant and accessible place for everyone to live, work and visit. We'll be transforming two of our key transport corridors, making it easier for people to walk and cycle in the area and into the city centre. And along these two routes, we'll create spaces for people to rest, play and connect with nature, whilst also learning more about the city. Just to put things into context of the two routes, for those of you that are new to the project, we've got Stirling Station to University route and the city centre to the Forth Valley College route. Now, the Stirling Station to University route, it starts at Stirling train station and it goes along past the Cowan Centre, across Old Stirling Bridge, onwards through Causeway Head and connects at Airthrough Road, where it then terminates at the University of Stirling at the roundabout. And the other route, the city centre to the Forth Valley College route, it starts at Upper Craigs, continues along Albert Place, past Albert Halls and the Smith Art Gallery, past the King's Knot on Dumbarton Road, and then continues north up Ratblock Road and then terminates on Drip Road just outside the Forth Valley College campus. So why Walk, Cycle, Live Stirling? Well, as part of Stirling Council's local development plan and our city region deal, we've set out ambitious plans for Stirling to grow in a way it gives us the best possible place for people to live and enjoy, whilst enabling walking, cycling and placemaking within the city. And we have committed to increasing the number of shorter journeys made on foot and by bike, and it will help tackle the traffic congestion that we're faced, air quality and health issues, as well as improving the public realm and the urban experience. So by providing this better cycling and network infrastructure, we will bring additional economic, health and environmental benefits to our city. And such economic benefits can be seen as shown by Living Streets, where we can see 30% increase in retail sales thanks to walking and cycling. So having more people within the streets, you will have a higher spend. And also 1.26 billion is what was stated as part of the national as the value of walking tourism brings to the Scottish economy. And we can also see quite significant health benefits as well, up to 20% reduction in absenteeism by promoting healthier travel options by employers, and that's a report by Sustrans. And also to help achieve your recommended 30 minutes of physical activity on 5 or more days per week, you can add in a walk or cycle within these short trips that will become more accessible by improving the walking and cycling facilities. And finally, we're all in this the same boat at the moment with this climate emergency. We need to do something about it together. And active travel is one of the significant ways that we can help reduce carbon emissions. So by just a 10% cycle mode share, you can see a 25% reduction of carbon emissions. So more people cycling and walking, less people in cars, you can have a great benefit. And likewise, by investing in walking and cycling infrastructure, you can see a massive improvement in your air quality as well. So the team that's behind this project, we've got myself, I'm Kayleigh, I'm the project manager, and we've got Kevin Argue as well as our transport development team leader, and Michaela Jackson as our community engagement officer. And the Sustrans team behind the project, we have Mary Davis and Davina Bright as project coordinators, and we've got Letty Valley as well as our infrastructure officer. Last year in February 2020, we had our round of consultation for the concept design proposals that we brought to the public, to our stakeholders, steering group workshops, the businesses, the accessibility panel. And we collected all that feedback and analysed it, and we have since updated our designs into our developed proposals, which we are bringing to you through this phase of consultation through February and March. Where, like I said earlier on, we have these plans up on our website as well, which you can view in more detail. We have Causeway Head plans up on the moment, and we will have the full routes ready to view next Tuesday as well. You can use that function to comment and submit your feedback as well. We'll be issuing out postal surveys, collecting more feedback for those that don't have access to any sort of computer or internet as well. So we'll be looking to agree these designs come the end of spring, which will allow us then to progress to the construction details, get those drawings finalised to allow construction to commence the tail end of the summer. And with a 2-year construction timeline, we hope to have both routes finished for spring 2023. And Walk Cycle Live Stirling is a project that's funded through the Stirling and Clackmannanshire City Region Deal project, and we've got match funding through Sustrans Scotland. So I'm just going to move on now specifically to the Albert Place slides. So when we talk about Albert Place, we're talking about the start at the west, where the mini roundabout is, and then it continues down and terminates just at the Port Street junction just before Upper Craigs. And that section there just between Port Street and the Corn Exchange is Dumbarton Road East. So just for clarity, although we're talking about Albert Place, we're talking about this entire stretch. Our concept design consultation for Albert Place and Dumbarton Road East, it was held back in February last year. Our concept design plans, it included a protected bidirectional, so a two-way cycleway along the northbound carriageway from Upper Craigs to the west end of Albert Place. Now for us to achieve this, we needed to realign the curbs that would have impacted some of the trees, requiring us to either remove or relocate those trees. All the parking along the north would need to be removed to allow space for the two-way cycleway, and all the parking within the Dumbarton Road East section, so outside the shops there, the blue badge parking and loading bays would need to be relocated. We have some pinch points as well, specifically at the west end, where the road needed to be reduced down to 5.5 metres. The cycleway would have been pinched down as well to below our standards, as well as the footway. So throughout our steering group workshops and other engagement activities, we also did an exercise specifically on the junction at the entrance to Albert Place, which currently is a mini roundabout. So the idea for this junction that we proposed at concept was to change it so it steers traffic away from Albert Place as a through route. We wanted to make it more of a gateway for walking and cycling. We had great feedback from this, such as needing to implement more traffic calming measures. We needed to provide a crossing for southbound, for cyclists travelling southbound to the junction. There was raised crossings needed at the junctions, and there was suggestions to try and reduce the radius even further to act as a traffic calming for any vehicles that do turn into Albert Place. Following consultation, we understood the desire to retain the trees and most of the parking, specifically the disabled parking and the loading bays down in Dumbarton Road East. So we have since reviewed the options available in this location to provide safe cycle infrastructure. We are now proposing a cycle street, which we reckon would be the most suitable. A cycle street, it's designed so that active travel modes such as walking, cycling and wheeling will be the dominating form of traffic, and our designs would need to make it immediately apparent to drivers that their guests and cyclists have the priority on the street. And we do this by implementing traffic calming measures, raised tables, for example, and redesigning junction a bit further to mitigate any through traffic. So we'll just look at our proposals in more detail here for the cycle street on this section. So we've got the detailed area that we just discussed at the junction. We've got another area just at Clarendon Place there, and outside the Albert Hall. So we've got a visualisation to show you. So we have put in a raised table at this junction to again further reduce traffic speeds on approach. We've raised the table at this junction as well to allow pedestrians easier crossing to follow desire lines, and we've allowed that smooth transition for those cyclists travelling southbound and provided an island crossing there as well for those that wishing to continue that direction. So this looks a bit more in detail at our cycle street interventions here. So where the space constraints restrict our ability to install the protected cycle lanes, we do need to look at traffic calming measures for vehicles so that we can encourage cyclists to travel in the primary position. So they'd be along the centre of the carriageway lane, and it would also provide the pedestrians and disabled users plenty of space on the footway. So we'd be narrowing the road down still to take that space and give it back to those that are walking or wheeling on those footpaths there. So for us to actually achieve this cycle street successfully, we need to have a reduced traffic speed of 20 miles per hour, and traffic volumes need to be greatly reduced to about 2,000 a day. So we'd be looking at cutting the traffic by about 2/3. Other measures that we could introduce can be seen here, such as cycle-friendly, not necessarily speed bumps, but what we call rumble strips. It's just a change in texture for vehicles' tyres, but it allows cyclists to bypass them while still maintaining the primary position. We'd also be visually narrowing the carriageway further by providing a centre line. So rather than the centre line you see in the visual there, where it's a painted line, we'd be looking at doing a strip that would be about 1/2 metre wide of, again, a different surface that would be a rumble to the vehicle's tyres. So again, just visually narrowing it down for the vehicles and reducing the speeds. We'd also need to introduce clear signage to indicate cyclist priority on the carriageway, and we can look at doing these raised tables at the junctions, which you can see in that visualisation. So that just improves the crossings for pedestrians to get across safely. Got a visualisation here outside Albert Place. So you can see we've widened the footpath, taken space away from the carriageway and made it a more pleasant place for people to walk and cycle. We've got natural stone material on the footways there, and at these raised tables, such as this location, you've got a nice natural stone material on the carriageway. We're maintaining the parking because we don't need the space in these locations, so we can give that back, as you see, just north of the zebra crossing. So when we presented these proposals to our steering groups through workshops, it was made clear that for this to be successful as a cycle street, we needed to achieve significant reduced traffic flows along Albert Place and Dumbarton Road East. And such things that we could consider include bus gates, local access only, and restricting vehicle movements from the side streets. So the bus gate idea, they're used to prevent access to general traffic beyond a certain point, and it allows buses, taxis and cyclist movements through. So we are currently exploring this possibility of a bus gate on Albert Place and Dumbarton Road East to reduce the traffic volumes to what we need, and it would discourage the use of the road as a through route to and from the city centre. But it is important that we do maintain bus movement to allow people access to sustainable travel, and the tourism coaches that access the key visitor attractions in this area. So the vehicles would still be able to access the road, but only up to the gate from either direction, and it allows vehicles access to residential properties and the key visitor attractions and businesses. So we've got some options that we've been exploring for the location. So we've got 4 possible locations for bus gates in this area. I appreciate there are probably more, however, we think these are the ones that would be most suitable. So the blue circle that you can see on screen in each of the options, that would be the location of a bus gate for the westbound traffic. And the pink circle is the location for the bus gate for the eastbound traffic. The dashed line, it just gives you an idea as to where traffic would not be able to go through from the bus gate. So although traffic may be able to cut through the side street and still get access to Albert Place, it just gives you the indication as to trying to restrict that through route movement. So for example, in we can go for option 2, if you are travelling west and from the town centre and you want to access the Smith Art Gallery, you will have to, you can't continue along Albert Place past that blue dot. However, you can turn in left down Glebe Avenue, and then you can then just return and do that sort of diversion to then rejoin on Albert Place. So that's ideal for those that wish to access Albert Place, residents, businesses, and those visitor centres in that location. But what we don't want is for the through traffic to just see that as a shortcut, which would add unnecessary traffic to the side streets as well, and it doesn't achieve what we want to do, is ultimately reduce the through traffic on Albert Place. So what we would suggest is the bus gate either side of Allen Park, which can be seen in option 3. We reckon this would be probably the most successful to implement, because vehicles travelling from the town to the west, they would be diverted back to the town centre via Allen Park. So that would be quite an inconvenience. You just end up in that loop, so you'd be forced to go obviously and the other direction. However, it's less of an inconvenience for those travelling east. So it is a slight diversion having to go through Allen Park, and you do come up to the awkward junction, Black Boy Fountain. However, we can look at sort of other mitigation measures for when you get to that point. We could also look at possibly a different location for the bus gate. Maybe it could be a combination of some of the other options. However, we just want to talk through them all, bring them to your attention, see which you think would be successful, if a bus gate is the right thing to do to restrict traffic here, if there are other measures that you think might work. But just to reiterate that the other options here that we've got on display, so options 1, 2 and 4, to successfully ensure that the route is inconvenient for through traffic, we would need to explore restricting movements to some of the side streets that may be used as shortcuts, like I said previously. So although in principle it looks like it works and does the job, there are still, it's a grid essentially, so there will be those that can use the side streets as shortcuts. So we're just going to move on to the questions and answers, and hopefully there's been some submitted as well, and the team have been answering them. So I'll just read them out, what we've got so far. So we've got, how can you assure safety for cyclists on a mixed-use road? How can you ensure the traffic will be reduced, and will there be CCTV covering the whole road to monitor behaviours? So we've just said that our designs, they will be fully assessed by the road safety audit process, and as noted, we will consider ways in which we can significantly reduce the traffic volumes and speeds in the space. And of course, this will be monitored after the implementation to ensure that we do get the reduction in numbers that we seek. There was just a bit of clarification there about the dash lines after the bus gate. for the route for all vehicles or the route for bus, bike and taxi. So just to confirm, the dotted lines show the sections of the road that will be accessed just by buses, taxis and bikes, but I did clarify as well that they can still be accessed by using the side streets as well. So okay, great. Another question, what level of VPD does your modelling show for each option? So we have a range of data sets and a model which have been collected over the life of the project. We have informed our decisions on and the projects which are identified within the Council's local transport strategy. Okay, we've got another question here. From a cycling point of view, how can cycles access the town centre properly from Albert Place, Corn Exchange Road, without exception of the one-way King Street or using the pavements? Also need permeability via Friar Street. So the cyclists will be able to access the town centre as they do so now. Cyclists can still pass through the bus gate on road. Just let us know if that's been need more clarification. So okay, we've got another one here about the bus gates. I don't have much experience of bus gates. Whilst I normally don't worry too much about car access, people might wonder how they can drive up to the castle and hotel via the Corn Exchange Road, or does Murray Place need to open to vehicles? So there will always be an option to access the city centre by car, and that access will depend on which of the 4 options we take on board. So there will always be routes, it's just a more inconvenient route. So. Okay. So we'll just go for another until about 5 o'clock for more questions to come in, and then the presentation will restart. As I said at the start as well, the plans are up on the website for you to look at in more detail. So we would welcome you to have a look at those. You can download the PDFs, you can print them out. We also have other plans up for Causeway Head at the moment as well, and then on Tuesday next week we will launch the full routes, the college route and the university route. So for those of you still in attendance, you can still submit your questions and our team will answer. I will restart the presentation again at 5 o'clock for those that maybe have missed the start of it previously, or for those that will join in later on. Okay, we've got a few more questions coming in, which I'll read out, and then I will restart the presentation for those that are just joining us. I've got a question here about speed limit. So could the speed limit be reduced to 10 miles per hour? At 20, car drivers may get frustrated and feel they are held up by bikes, causing them to overtake dangerously. So unfortunately, 10 miles per hour is not a legally enforceable speed. Through good approaches, through the design and placemaking, we can achieve low traffic speeds to ensure that the environment is welcoming, safe, and will help police this down, reduce the speeds down to 10 miles per hour naturally. We'll just read out these last two questions that we've got here at the moment. I appreciate there are more coming in, so we'll run through those once I finish the next presentation. So I'll just go through these last two. On the plans, there are trees at the end of Clarendon Road shown at the junction south side of Albert Place. Is the intention to close this junction? So the trees here are proposed to slow traffic between the two lanes, but it will still be accessible and not closed off to vehicles. It could be looked at further if consultation established that there was a desire to locally do so. So we welcome your thoughts on that. And finally, just before I move on to the presentation again, what is the current average traffic speed to be compared with proposed 20 mile per hour speed limit? So we don't have this to hand at present, but we will get back to you on that. So if you can email us on our dedicated email address, walkcyclelive@stirling.gov.uk, and we'll get that information to you. Okay, please keep submitting your questions. My team will keep answering them in the meantime, and I will just read them out at the end of this next presentation. Just restart it. Thank you. So welcome to those that have just joined us. I'm just restarting the presentation. I appreciate some of you might have just dropped in halfway through the last one. So I'm just going to start from the scratch, but throughout the presentation, please feel free to use the question function through Microsoft Teams, and our team will answer those questions and we can run through them at the end. I will be starting with a brief overview of the Walk Cycle Live Stirling project, specifically for those that are new, don't know much about the project, and as a refresher for those that have been involved throughout the consultation so far. We'll then focus on the Albert Place proposals, just going over the previous concept designs and the changes that we are now done for our developed designs and some other implementations that we'd like to explore and get your feedback on. The plans are available online on our website, which you access this link through. So I'd welcome your comments through the website as well on our plans. So we'll just briefly run through what Walk Cycle Live Stirling is, why we're doing this project, and then just finish off on the project team and our programme. So Walk Cycle Live Stirling. It's an active travel project that Stirling Council, in partnership with Sustrans, are seeking to deliver exemplar walking and cycling infrastructure, but as well as creating more attractive and dynamic public spaces. And it is a project that's targeted to transform the city of Stirling into a more sustainable, vibrant and accessible place for everyone to live, work and visit. We will be transforming two of our key transport corridors, making it easier for people to walk and cycle into the city centre. And along these two routes, we will be creating spaces for people to rest and to play, connect with nature and to learn more about the city's rich history. And some context for those of you who are new to the project, and just as a reminder, we've got the two routes here, the Stirling Station to University route and the city centre to Forth Valley College route. The Stirling Station to University, it starts at the Stirling train station and it goes along up Cowan Street past the Cowan Centre, and then it crosses the Old Stirling Bridge and along Causeway Head, and then joins Airtree Road, continues north and terminates just at the University roundabout entrance. And the other route, city centre to Forth Valley College route, starts at Upper Craigs, continues along Albert Place past the Albert Halls and the Smith Art Gallery, along Dumbarton Road past the King's Knot, and then continues north along Raploch Road and terminates at Drip Road just outside the Forth Valley College. So why do we need Walk Cycle Live Stirling? Well, our local development plan and our city region deal has set out ambitious plans for Stirling to grow in a way that gives us the best possible place for people to live and enjoy, but whilst enabling walking, cycling and placemaking within the city. And we have committed to increasing the number of shorter journeys made on foot and by bike, and all these will help tackle traffic congestion, improve air quality and the health issues we see, as well as improving the public realm and the urban experience. And by providing this better cycling and network infrastructure, we will bring additional economic, health and environmental benefits to the city. Some examples here that I've seen in reports that have been published, economic benefits, quite significantly a 30% increase in retail sales can be seen thanks to the walking and cycling projects. So people that are out and about, that walking down the high streets will tend to spend more money than those that drive to the city. And significantly 1.26 billion is the value that's been stated by the National is the value of walking tourism brings to the Scottish economy. We can see health benefits as well. Sustrans say 20% reduction in absenteeism can be seen by promoting healthier travel options. And also only 39% of people currently in Scotland achieve the recommended 30 minutes of physical activity on 5 or more days per week. But that can easily be reduced by adding in one of these short journeys to the city centre, to these education centres, walking to work, cycling to work, add that into your daily routine. And finally, environmental benefits, which will help tackle the climate emergency that we're in at the moment. We can see just with a 10% cycle mode share, a 25% reduction in carbon emissions is what Sustrans Scotland report. So by having more people walking and cycling, you have less cars on the road and as such less carbon emissions. And also that would also benefit the air quality. So by investing in more walking and cycling infrastructure, we can see a significant improvement to our air quality. Okay, we'll just touch on who's behind the project. I'm Kayleigh, I'm the project manager for Walk Cycle Live Stirling. We've got Kevin Argue as well as our transport development team leader, and Michaela Jackson, our community engagement officer. And on Sustrans' side, who's working with us on this project, we've got Mary Davis and Davina Bright as project coordinators, and we've got Letty as our infrastructure officer as well. Last year, in February 2020, we went out to consultation with our concept design proposals for both the routes, and through workshops with the stakeholders, the public, the businesses and the accessibility panel, we then collated and analysed all that feedback we'd received and have since updated our designs, which we're bringing to you today and over the next couple of months. So we're looking to gather some further feedback on these proposals, which we will then review, analyse and then further update our proposals to construction details. with the ambition of starting works in the late summer, so August, September this year, and anticipate a 2-year construction programme for the 2 routes, which will allow us to finish and complete in spring 2023. Walk Cycle Live Stirling is a project that's funded through the Stirling and Clackmannanshire City Region Deal Active Travel Programme, and we've got match funding from Sustrans Scotland. Okay, so now we're just going to move on to Albert Place in particular. We'll talk about the concept design proposals and where we are now with our development designs, and then finish on some other traffic interventions that we could look at. So our concept design consultation for Albert Place and Dumbarton Road was held back in February 2020. So Albert Place, when we speak of Albert Place, we're looking at the section that joins where the existing mini roundabout is there just off of Dumbarton Road on the west, and also then finishes on Dumbarton Road East just at the Port Street junction. So the whole section that goes past the Stirling Smith Art Gallery, the Albert Halls and Wolf Craig as well is how we treat and call as Albert Place. So our concept design plans included a protected bi-directional 2-way cycleway along the northbound carriageway from Upper Craigs to the west end of Albert Place. And for us to achieve this, we needed to realign some of the curbs that would have impacted the existing trees, meaning that most of them might need to be removed, relocated, and obviously as such replanting or new trees in their place. For the cycleway to fit in, we needed to remove all the parking that was situated on the north of the road, and all the parking on Dumbarton Road East, as it's slightly narrower at that section, would have had to been removed. So the accessible parking bays and loading bays in that location would have had to been relocated. Excuse me. We'd also proposed to reduce the carriageway down to 5.5 metres, which would have allowed us to fit in the cycleway at the widths required. However, even at this, there were still significant pinch points, requiring the cycleway and the footway to be below our design standards. So through our workshops as well, we focused specifically on this junction, which is currently a mini roundabout. Our concept design proposals wanted to change that into a T-junction, diverting traffic away just with the geometry of our design rather than having it as an easy through route through Albert Place. So making it a gateway for walking and cycling. So we were told that we needed to ensure that we had safe transition for cyclists to continue southbound from this junction, and a safer crossing. The raised tables were preferred at this junction for pedestrian desire lines, and there was suggestions to remove some of the greenery to allow a pedestrian crossing. Again, just putting in greenery where the pedestrian desire lines were. Wanted the radius at this junction to be reduced a bit tighter, again just trying to act as more of a traffic calming feature. So following the consultation process as well, we understood the desire to retain the trees and most of the parking, specifically the blue badge parking and the loading bays located on Dumbarton Road East outside the businesses. So we have since reviewed the options available in this location, and for us to provide safe cycle infrastructure, we are now proposing a cycle street. A cycle street is designed so that active travel modes such as walking, cycling and wheeling can become the dominating form of traffic, and our designs aim to make it immediately apparent to drivers that they are guests and cyclists are priority on the carriageway. So this is our development design proposals here, and we will zoom in to the detailed areas. Detailed area A, which is the junction we just spoke about and the concept design. Detailed area B, just outside Clarendon Place, and we've got a visualisation to show you outside the Albert Halls. So for us to design a cycle street, because we've got space constraints, we need to add in traffic calming measures for vehicles, which would encourage cyclists to have a safe route on the carriageway, cycling in the primary position along the centre of the carriageway lane. And also by reducing the carriageway width, we can give that space back to the footways making it more pleasant and safe for pedestrians and disabled users. So for us to achieve this, we would need a 20 mph speed limit along this stretch. We'd need to greatly reduce traffic volumes down to 2,000 a day. Currently, we'd need to reduce that about 2/3 to what's existingly travelling along Albert Place. The traffic calming measures we're proposing include raised tables at some of the junctions here and cycle-friendly rumble strips and speed bumps. And we'll be looking to give cyclists priority at the junctions. So we're just going to look into a bit more detail as to our changes. So we have redesigned this junction a bit further following the consultation feedback. So we have provided a level crossing at the junctions here for pedestrians to get across the Desire Line. We've continued the cycleway southbound to allow that connection, and we've removed and just realigned the greenery that was here to provide better pedestrian and cyclist manoeuvres. As it's a cycle street now, there's no need for the give and take at the entrance where we needed to tighten up the carriageway to one lane to protect those trees. So now we can keep it open up for the two-way traffic as well. This is the detailed area that's just outside of Clarendon Place. So just showing you how the junctions could work to allow pedestrians to get across safely. We're looking at level crossings, so raised tables where the vehicles would need to ramp up to get across, and then it allows pedestrians to cross within the one level, continuing the footway across. Cycle-friendly rumble strips, which are touched on as a potential traffic calming feature, is where the material changes in certain locations. It creates a rumble effect for the tyres, the vehicle tyres. However, it does allow a cycle bypass through the centre, so cyclists still can maintain that primary position. We'd also like to reduce the carriageway visually by introducing a centre line that's similar to the rumble, the change in texture. So rather than having it as a centre line, just with the white lines that you can see in that visualization, we'd like it to be another sort of material that would create a rumble texture, again sort of keeping the cars to a narrower lane, but it is still drivable space. It just creates that narrowing. You can see here that we are retaining the parking in these on the northbound, which would have previously had to come away, and the access to Clarendon Place has just been that junction treatment just to help reduce traffic speeds on entrance and exit as well, just with the introduction of some buffers. Our proposal here is trees or greenery or similar, but we can look at other options. We've got a visualisation here of our proposal just outside of Albert Place, and you can see how we've taken away some of the carriageway space and reallocated it to the footway. Specifically in this location, we've now got the opportunity to add in additional greenery, so we've got more trees. We can put in a natural stone product that can be seen in the visualisation as well, improving the feel of the city in this location. And we've got a natural stone material on the carriageway as well for certain locations where we raise the table, so it becomes one level, so pedestrians can get across on the zebra crossing there. So we did present these proposals to our steering groups, and it became quickly apparent that we needed to achieve significant traffic reduction along Albert Place and Dumbarton Road further than what we were proposing with our traffic calming measures. So we went away and we considered some interventions such as bus gates, local access only, and restricting vehicle movements from some of the side streets. So one intervention that we'd like to explore and get your feedback on is bus gates. And bus gates are used to prevent access to general traffic beyond a certain point, and it allows only buses, taxis and cyclists movement through. So we are currently exploring the possibility of this on Albert Place and Dumbarton Road East, which would significantly reduce traffic volumes as it would discourage the use of the road as a through route to and from the city centre. And it is important that we do retain the buses on this route to provide people access to sustainable travel, and also for the tourism coaches to access the visitor attractions here. So we should state as well, vehicles would still be able to access the road, but only up to the gate from either direction, and it allows vehicles access to residential properties and key visitor attractions. So an example here is in Manchester, so it's obviously it's more the town centre. However, it's an example of how it would look on the street. It's done with road markings, signage, and it would be cameraed as well. So only buses, taxis and cycles would be able to get through from that point. So on the screen are we've got 4 possible locations that we think could be explored for bus gates, and just to sort of detail what you're seeing here, the blue circle is the location of a bus gate for the westbound traffic. So when you get to that point, you can't go any further, you'd have to be diverted along. So for example, in option 1, you'd get to the blue circle and you can't go any further, so you'd be diverted along Clarendon Place. And likewise, the pink circle is for eastbound traffic. So option 1, if you're travelling east, you get to the bus gate, your only option is then go up Corn Exchange Road. So the dashed line is just an indicative representation of the route, which would be restricted to buses, taxis and cycles only from the point of the gate. However, there are the side streets that would allow access to Albert Place for those that require to properties, businesses and the visitor attractions. So the bus gate enforces the restriction of through traffic. So rather than just providing local access only, we are enforcing this restriction. And in doing so, we do provide a safer street for cyclists, and it creates a more pleasant environment for the local residents, the businesses and those that are walking in the area. So our suggestion would be that the option 3 would probably be the most suitable for the location, and it would be implemented just with the use of simple traffic signs and road markings, and it would be either side of Allen Park. So vehicles travelling from the town to the west would be diverted back to the town centre via Allen Park. So it'd be an inconvenient route for the westbound traffic. You'd be in a sort of never-ending loop and you have to go westbound and an alternative direction. However, option 3, it does have a con. It's not ideal for restricting traffic movements in the opposite direction. So traffic would still be able to get along through the majority of the street and then would still be diverted down Allen Park. However, it's just a minor diversion. So we could explore that option a wee bit further as well. Once we gather a bit more information from yourselves as what options would be preferable, if there are other traffic interventions you'd like to explore. There could be another location that we could situate these bus gates, but we do need to look at significantly reducing traffic along Albert Place. So thank you for listening to that presentation. I'm just going to go over to the questions and answers that have been submitted while I've been talking, and read out any new ones that we've got. I will then restart the presentation for those of you just joined in or will be joining later at past. So we've got a question here, I suppose a statement as well, hoping that investing in this route, it would improve cycling access to King Street and Fire Street, because at the moment it feels awkward to cycle there. So we obviously understand that, though this may not form part of the Walk Cycle Live Stirling project, we will try to address issues such as this through further project development. Okay, great. We've got a question here about the material choice. So the pavement and carriageway at the town end of Albert Place, you are proposing to lay this in stone to replace existing tarmac. I'd be concerned about the durability of that. The stone that has been laid in the town centre, such as outside Codebase and Cafe Nero, is in really poor repair and is never relaid properly after it's lifted for utility works. Would there be a danger that this surface is difficult to maintain and thus ends up in a similar bad state? So many material choice, such as whether we use natural stone, etc., have still to be finalised. So whatever is decided, the final product will be high quality. We will ensure that the maintenance plan is in place to ensure the long-term success of the Walk Cycle Live Stirling project. Thank you. I'll leave the questions, you can keep submitting the questions throughout the session anyway, but we'll be here to speak them aloud for the next 8 minutes, and then I will restart the presentation. And for those of you that have just joined as well, just to restate that the website is live. You can view the proposals in more detail. You can download the PDFs and print them off, and you can submit your feedback through the website. The presentation slides as well will also be uploaded to the website after this. So for those that have not been able to attend or had to only be present for some of the presentation, you can still have access after. Just got a few more minutes of some of the questions coming in live, which we will read out, and then I'll start the presentation again at past. Okay, I've got time just to read out this last question that's just come in, and then I'll restart my presentation. So in the context of cycle-friendly network and encouraging people to cycle into town from Cambusbarron, continuing on Dumbarton Road is the narrow path to Cambusbarron, linking to the walking and cycling friendly road and access to Craigforth. So it would be very relevant to widen this path, which is also popular with locals accessing Kings Park to via the Farm Road. Is this being looked at? So this is a very important question. As you may be aware, the Council has an active travel action plan which sets out our aspirations. To build upon this, officers will create a prioritisation matrix to direct future active travel routes and linkages. Whilst the issues listed in your question are not part of this project, there are clearly interdependencies which we are aware that require further consideration. Thank you for that feedback. Great. Okay, I'm just going to restart the presentation. So thank you all for joining us to this drop-in event if you've just joined us now. I'm just going to run through the overview of Walk Cycle Live Stirling. Initially, we'll talk about what the project is and where we are in the programme, and then we'll talk about our Albert Place proposals, what we saw at concept design and what we are bringing to you today. And then we'll just finish on some further design interventions that we're exploring, and we would like your feedback. So throughout this presentation, there is the question function where you could submit to our team who will be answering in the background. And when I finish the presentation in about 20 minutes time, I'll spend the last 10 minutes reading out any of those questions that have come in. And just to say as well that the website platform has the full Albert Place proposals up for view. You can comment, you can download the PDFs, you can print them out, and like I said, you can submit your feedback through that website as well. Okay, so I'll just get started. We'll talk about what the project is and why we're doing Walk Cycle Live Stirling. We'll then move on to just briefly introduce the team behind the project and then finish on the project programme. We'll then move on to Albert Place discussions. So what is Walk Cycle Live Stirling? Well, it is an active travel project that Stirling Council, in partnership with Sustrans, are seeking to deliver exemplar walking and cycling infrastructure and as well create more attractive and dynamic public spaces. It is a project that's targeted to transform the city of Stirling into a more sustainable, vibrant and accessible place for everyone to live, work and visit. So we'll be transforming two of our key transport corridors, making it easier for people to walk and cycle into the city centre. And along these two routes, there will be spaces that will create for people to rest, to play, connect with nature and learn more about the city's rich history. We've got a map up here for context for those of you that are new to the project, but also just as a refresher. We've got the two routes here as part of Walk Cycle Live Stirling. We've got the city centre to Forth Valley College route and the Stirling Station to University route. Now the city centre to Forth Valley College route starts at Upper Craigs and then continues along Albert Place past the Albert Halls and the Smith Art Gallery Museum, then continues along Dumbarton Road past the King's Knot and northbound up Raploch Road, where it then terminates on Drip Road just outside Forth Valley College campus. And the other route, the Stirling Station to University route, starts at Stirling train station and continues along Cowan Street past the Cowan Centre, across Old Stirling Bridge, along Causeway Head, and then joins on Airtree Road, where it then terminates at the University of Stirling entrance just at the roundabout. So why are we needing Walk Cycle Live Stirling? Well, our local development plan and our city region deal has set out ambitious plans for Stirling to grow in a way that gives us the best possible place for people to live and enjoy, whilst enabling walking, cycling and placemaking within the city. We have committed to increasing the number of shorter journeys made on foot and by bike, which will help tackle traffic congestion. It'll improve our air quality and it'll help tackle our health issues, as well as improving the public realm and the urban experience. So by providing a better cycling and network infrastructure, we will bring additional economic, health and environmental benefits to our city. And such economic benefits that we can see throughout statistics that have been reported throughout the country You can see 30% increase in retail sales thanks to walking and cycling projects. So nicer places invite people. You want to spend more time in places that feel nice and are attractive. And as such, you will spend money in the local shops. And the figure is substantial. 1.26 billion is what's stated as the value of walking tourism to the Scottish economy. And we can see health benefits as too. It's quite significant statistics here as well. So Sustrans reported that you can see a 20% reduction in absenteeism by promoting healthier travel options. And unfortunately, only 39% of people in Scotland achieve the recommended 30 minutes of physical activity on 5 or more days per week. However, by improving the active travel network along these short routes, you can easily start to accommodate these 30-minute trips by doing walking or cycling to the shops, to school, to work. Just any of these little journeys will add a huge significant health benefit. And we can also see significant environmental benefits. We're in the climate emergency where we all need to pull together to make a difference. And one of the ways that we can see this is with a 10% cycle mode share could have a reduction in carbon emissions up to 25%. So having more people walking and cycling, you will have less cars on the road, and as a result, a reduction in carbon emissions. And a reduction in carbon emissions can only lead to an improved air quality. So you can see the significant benefits by investing in walking and cycling. So who's behind the team? I'm Kaylee, I'm the project manager for Walk Cycle Live Stirling. And we've got Kevin Argue as well, so our transport development team leader, and Michaela Jackson is our community engagement officer. And on the Sustrans team for Walk Cycle Live Stirling, we've got Mary Davis and Davina Bright as project coordinators, and we've got Letty Valley as well as our infrastructure officer. So last year in February, we went out to consultation with our concept designs. So we did various engagement activities, including drop-in events, design workshops with our steering groups, with the businesses, the accessibility panel, and throughout our online platform as well. We collated all this information and feedback on our proposals, and as such we've analysed and then updated our designs, which we're bringing to you today and over the next couple of months, our developed designs. So we're hoping to gather more feedback from yourselves on these updated proposals, which will then collate and update the designs further into construction details, with the ambition to start construction in the late summer. So we'd be looking at August, September this year. And we estimate about a 2-year construction programme for about 6.5 kilometres of cycle and walking infrastructure. Walk Cycle Live Stirling is a Stirling and Clackmannanshire City Region Deal project, and it's funded through that, and it's match funded by Sustrans Scotland. So I'm just going to now move on to Albert Place. We'll look at the concept design proposals and the changes that we are now implementing as part of the developed design, explain why, and also finish up on some interventions which we'd like your feedback on specifically. So feel free to submit questions. There's a team behind me that are answering those in the background, and then we can read through those at the end. So Albert Place, we can see here on the dashed line, is between the roundabout at the west of Albert Place, just after King's Knot, and is just after, it's still including Dumbarton Road East there, so just before Upper Craigs and that Port Street junction there. So it is the entirety of Albert Place and Dumbarton Road East. Now, our concept design consultation for Albert Place and Dumbarton Road East, it was held back in February 2020. And these plans included protected bi-directional, so a two-way cycleway along the northbound carriageway, and it went from Upper Craigs to the west end of Albert Place. For us to achieve this, we needed to change the curb alignment on the south, which would have had an impact on the trees one way or another, possibly meaning some or most would need to be removed or relocated or replanted. So also, to fit in the cycleway, we needed to take up the space that's currently used for parking on the north And likewise, we've got a slightly narrowed section in Dumbarton Road East on approach to the town centre, where all the parking that's currently there would need to be relocated, so the accessible bays and the loading bays. For us to fit in the bidirectional cycleway, we were proposing to reduce the carriageway down to 5.5 metres. But even with this, there were still significant pinch points, meaning that the cycleway and the footway would have been below our minimum standards at the west end for short sections. We looked at this junction in a bit more detail. It's currently a roundabout, and we wanted to propose this as a junction to divert traffic away from Albert Place as a through route, but creating it as a gateway for walking and cycling. So we worked with our steering groups and stakeholders on their thoughts on this proposal, and it became clear that although it was a reasonable improvement, we needed to do more. We needed to ensure it was a raised crossing, a raised table at this point. There was conflicts with the greenery that we proposed, affecting the desire lines for pedestrians. There seemed to be a lack of connection for cyclists wanting to continue southbound, and they wanted safer crossings access to Kings Park. And we needed to try and reduce the radius, if possible, of the junction, so tighten up that to again try and reduce traffic speeds on approach to the junction. So following this phase of consultation, we understood as well the desire for people to retain the trees and most of the parking in this area, specifically the blue badge parking and the loading bays on Dumbarton Road East. So we have since reviewed these options available in this location, and for us to be able to provide safe cycle infrastructure, we are now proposing a cycle street. We reckon that would be the most suitable, and we can do this by putting in traffic calming measures, raised tables, for example, and we've also redesigned the junction we spoke about, tightened up a bit more. The radius as well at Corn Exchange Junction, we've reduced that more significantly. So just look at these developed designs in a bit more detail, and I'll explain more on what is a cycle street. So we've got developed designs here and we'll go into a bit more zoomed in of the detailed areas A, B and C you can see on screen here. So detailed area A is the junction we've just looked at as that was dealt with through concept design. Detailed area B is a junction at Clarendon Place just after the Smith Art Gallery and Museum, and then a visualisation we've prepared that can be seen just outside the Albert Halls. So a cycle street, it's designed so that active travel modes such as walking, cycling and wheeling will become the dominating form of traffic. So our designs need to make sure that it's immediately apparent to drivers that they are guests in the street and cyclists are the priority. So we had significant space constraints here, which restricted our ability to provide protected lanes to the standards that were required. So we looked to introduce traffic calming measures for vehicles, and it encourages cyclists to travel in the primary position along the centre of the carriageway lane, and by taking away space as well from the carriageway, so we're still proposing to reduce it to 6 metres, we can then reallocate that space to pedestrians, so widening the footway, making it more space for disabled users and pedestrians. For us to achieve a successful cycle street in this section, we are proposing to reduce the speed limit down to 20 miles per hour. We need to reduce the traffic volumes to below 2,000, so it's probably a reduction in about 2/3 of the current traffic volumes there. We would be looking to do some traffic calming, so we could introduce some raised tables that we've got proposed here and some cycle friendly rumble strips, act similar to like speed bumps. And we'd need to look at doing clear signage, just reinforcing that cyclists have priority on the carriageway and no overtaking. We'll just zoom in onto these areas here. So this is the junction we just looked at. So it's similar in geometry, however, we have tightened it up a bit, reduced the radius a bit further, and we have now continued the cycleways to allow cyclists to continue southbound, and we've got that crossing there for access to the Kings Park. We've raised up this junction as a raised table for the pedestrians as well to get across on a level crossing, and we're now, as it's a cycle street and we don't have that bidirectional cycleway, we've got the space to have two lanes of traffic on this approach, whereas in our concept design we had to narrow it down, so it's a give way just after the junction, so it's taken away that extra risk there. We've taken away the greenery that was sort of compromising pedestrian desire lines as well, but also still adding enough to improve it and make it a gateway for walking and cycling. So a bit more detailed area as to our interventions for a cycle street here. Specifically the rumble strips that I mentioned. So they're not raised, so it's not speed bumps per se, but the darker areas that you can see here are a different material to the carriageway. So it create like a rumble feel to the vehicle, but we can still ensure that cyclists can bypass this by having the primary position and go through it. And a similar feature we would like to propose down the centre line. So rather than having white lines down the centre, we would like to have about 0.5 metre of what we would call a rumble strip, but it's just a different material to provide a different texture for tyres, and that just creates this visual narrowing. So we would still be achieving essentially a 5.5 metre wide carriageway, but it's 6 metres of usable space. It's just forcing the vehicles into a narrower lane. And we've got a visualisation here of Albert Place, and you can see we've taken away the carriageway space and significantly widened the footway in this location just outside the Albert Halls. We've got natural stone material proposed in these locations here rather than tarmac footpath. We've got space now to add additional greenery. We are retaining the parking on the north side, so you can see that just past the zebra crossing there. And you can see that sort of visual narrowing, that strip that continues up the centre line just past the zebra crossing there to create that visual narrowing. So we did present these proposals to our stakeholders and steering groups, and it quickly became apparent that our proposals needed to enforce more reduced traffic. So for it to be a successful cycle street, we did need to go back to the fact that the traffic volumes need to be reduced to 2,000 vehicles a day. And how do we actually do that with what we've proposed to date? So we went away and we considered some options such as local access only, restricting vehicle movements from side streets, and possibly bus gates. And it's bus gates that we want to talk to you about today. They're used to prevent access to general traffic beyond a certain point, and it allows only buses, taxis and cyclist movement through. So we are exploring this possibility on Albert Place and Dumbarton Road East, and we think it would greatly reduce traffic volumes, and it would discourage the use of the road as a through route to and from the city centre. And it's important that we do retain the bus movements in this area to allow people access to sustainable travel, but also maintain access for the tourism vehicles for the visitor attractions. Now, vehicles would still be able to access the road, but only up to the gates from either direction, and it'll allow vehicles access to the residential properties on Albert Place and the visitor attractions and the businesses. And this is an example from Manchester, just to give you an idea of what it would visually look like. So it's just lining really and signage, and it would be cameraed for enforcement. So they're very easy to implement on a street, and it will greatly reduce the traffic throughout the street. So we're just going to show you some options here on screen that we've looked at for some of the locations that these could be implemented. So just to explain what you're seeing here, the blue dots in each example option there, blue circle, that is the location of a proposed bus gate for the westbound traffic. So you get to that point and then you cannot go any further. So on option 1, for example, if you're travelling from Upper Craigs, keep going west, you then hit that blue circle, you can only go left down Clarendon Place. Likewise, if you're travelling east, you hit the pink circle, you can't go any further. You'd then be diverted up Corn Exchange Road. Now, when I say can't go any further, I am meaning just general vehicles. So buses, taxis and cyclists will still be able to get through. There'll be no restrictions for them there. The dashed lines are just indicative, it's just an indicative route of which would be restricted to buses, taxis and cycles from the point of the gate. So although the dashed line does go past like the entire stretch, for example, option 3, you could still get vehicle access if you went up Glebe Avenue, Clarendon Place, etc. So if you did access it by different means, you can still get to Albert Place. If you're a resident on that street, if you wanted to get to the Albert Halls, for example, it would just need to be via either travelling from the west, access from that junction, or access from one of the side streets there. So the bus gate would enforce the restriction of through traffic. So rather than just implementing local access only, this allows us to actually enforce that. And in doing so, we would provide a safer street for cyclists. It would become a much more pleasant environment for the local residents, for the businesses, and for those that are walking in the area. Out of these 4 options, our suggestion would be option 3 would be the most suitable, and that would be a bus gate implemented either side of Allen Park. So in this option, vehicles travelling from the town to the west would be diverted back to the town centre via Allen Park. So it would be creating an inconvenient loop for the westbound traffic. However, it's less effective for those travelling eastbound into the town. So they would be able to travel along pretty much unimpeded along the entirety of Albert Place, albeit with the traffic calming measures we're proposing. But you know, it's still not as an inconvenient as the opposite direction. They'd just be diverted down Allen Park, but it still ultimately lead them to the town centre. So it would still, that option would still greatly reduce traffic, significantly in one direction. But we could explore looking at maybe a mix of some of the other options or other interventions that could work. So the other options, just to state why we don't think they would be as suitable, however they would still work. We just need to successfully ensure that the route's inconvenient for through traffic. We would need to explore restricting movements to some of the side streets because they may be used as shortcuts to avoid the bus gates. So like I said, for example, option 3, well, I suppose we can go to option 2 as a better example here. Rather than the bus gate being at Allen Park, it's situated further back to Glebe Avenue. So you can travel down, you turn left down Glebe and then continue along parallel to Albert Place and then come back up Clarendon Place. So you've only got a really short diversion, but then you're back. So it's not really taking away that traffic through. Plus you're sort of then pushing traffic to these residential streets. So other options that we could explore would be closing off some of the side streets or ban certain movements, so making them left or right turn only. So we can certainly explore that in more detail, but we'd really appreciate your feedback on this suggestion and obviously open it up to yourselves if you've got any other ideas on how we can reduce traffic in the area. So that's me finished talking through the presentation. I'll just go back and see if there's been some further questions and answers that have been submitted throughout while I've been talking, and I can read them out. So we've got one that's just come in, which is great. It's about the cobbles. So will the ½ metre cobbles in the middle of the road create a hazard to the people on bikes crossing them to access the 2 churches, Albert Hall, Smith Gallery? Yeah, that's a very valid point, and right turns into Corn Exchange. So these will be a visual narrowing treatment that we are aware has been used effectively elsewhere. So they will be flush with the carriageway and will not be a trip hazard. So it just creates that rumble feel because it's different to the tarmac, but it will still be flush. Okay, So we've still got time for more questions to be submitted, and even after this event at 6 o'clock, you are welcome to go online as well to the website where we've got the proposals up, and we've got the option available for you to submit your feedback through there as well. Likewise, we've got our dedicated project email address as well, if there's further questions you'd like to submit to the team. And we'd welcome feedback on the proposals as well. Appreciate there's more specific questions, but our suggestion on the busgate idea, we would welcome your thoughts on that as an effective way of reducing traffic. So you can use the question function as a way of submitting feedback, as well as just asking questions. Just got a few more minutes left of this session. I know there's some questions still coming in, so we will be answering those, and I'll read them out as they come in. Okay, I've got one last question that's come in. I'll read this out and we can finish up the session there. Is there potential, like on Drip Road, to have narrowed sections with a right of way in one direction to slow traffic coming into or out of the centre? So we are looking at the detail of this elsewhere for the project, and we could explore introducing it along Albert Place too, if there was support to do so. It would also require support from the bus providers using the route. Our suggestion would be to implement a bus gate as a start to reduce traffic volumes and monitor the traffic levels and safety of the route, and then we can implement further traffic calming if required. Okay, so that's 6 o'clock. That's the end of our drop-in event. Thank you everyone who attended. Please go online and review and add more questions or provide further feedback on our proposals. And if you have anything else that comes to mind, you can always email us on our dedicated email. It's walk-live-stirling at walk-cycle-live@stirling.gov.uk. And you can send your questions in that way as well. Thank you everyone.